Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Real Estate Mogul MD. My name is Bob Bosick, and I'm a retired executive, and I have the privilege of speaking with medical professionals, high-income earners, and investors. We're here today to share the real-world journeys along with the to-dos and probably more importantly, the not-to-dos. I'm fortunate today to have an interesting combination and story to share with you with a gentleman by the name of Chris Carrubba. Originally went to medical school, has gone off with other interests into business, et cetera. And I just really want to hear your journey, Chris. And I want to say again, thank you for joining us. I'm excited to talk with you and understand just exactly what you're doing and how you got there.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me on here today. Excited to be here. Sorry for the mess. My kids were in here playing this morning.
That's okay. I've got a little spot, hold away for myself here as well, just to keep the noise down. And I don't know if that will always work. But so tell us a little bit about, your medical journey. When did you decide you wanted to go to medical school, and where did you go?
Honestly, just sitting at home watching old episodes of ER. I think I was really bored one summer. I think it was like right after my first knee injury, and spent like all summer my senior year of high school, leading into my senior year of high school, watching these just like reruns of ER on TNT every day. And I think before that, I had wanted to be a lawyer. I'd kind of talked myself like, oh, you're not very good at math. You're not very good at, science. And then just like watching those episodes, I was like, oh, it's like pretty cool. Like, why wouldn't it be? It's like George Clooney. Like, of course it looks cool. But in my mind, like it just stuck. And I was like, I know this is what I want to do now. So I think I really pivoted, my senior year of high school, picked up, just some science classes, and then decided when I got to University of Louisville as a freshman in college, like, this is what I'm going to do, going to find a way to make this happen. And really, that's kind of where I started that journey at.
Excellent. And where did you do residency?
So I did college and med school at University of Louisville and went out to University of Colorado for residency.
Gotcha.
I did internal medicine, and my wife did OB/GYN out there.
Okay, excellent. And so tell me, you're now in Jacksonville, Florida. I'm pretty
correct.
familiar
Yeah.
with Florida. I've bought property there. I've had a place in Indian Rocks Beach, just south of Clearwater in the Tampa area. So I got family there in Tampa and also down in the Keys. It's a great place to live.
Yeah, we love it.
And what took you there? What was your interest in Jacksonville specifically?
So my wife's fellowship. So she did an OB/GYN residency. When she finished, she decided to do a MIGS, minimally invasive GYN surgery down in Jacksonville at Mayo Clinic. And we came down here, kind of fell in love with it, had both of our kids down here, and just decided that, we wanted to stay. And my parents were able to retire, right around that time, and they kind of wanted to move down here. So, we've just kind of set up shop here now.
Wow, you got it set up there with the parents down out and everything.
Exactly.
So, you have an interesting journey, and it reminds me, I grew up with a medical doctor way back when, and he actually, he had varied interest as well. He was, and I want the listeners to hear about your story, but my father went to law school, decided, I don't want to practice law, and then headed off to medical school, completed both law school and medical school, did his residency, and decided, I don't really want to do this either anymore, and I'm going to go get involved in investing in real estate, and took off in that direction. So he had a varied interest, an incredibly intelligent person, obviously with a mind that was always turning. Tell me what happened with you at the completion of, or in the process of doing a residency, that you wanted to go a different path.
It was, really, I would say probably my fourth year of med school is where I started to kind of realize like, hey, maybe I don't like these things as much as I thought I did. And I think for me, it was just recognizing like the time that went into it. And, just seeing so many physicians that I had interacted with, that's really where that started for me. And then during my intern year, I kind of realized that as well to an extent, and found myself, when I would look at someone that I thought, this person is a great doctor, they're staying, late, they're looking at, their charts the next day before clinic. I kind of realized like, I'm not doing that. And it's not can't. I certainly could have. It was just more of a I don't want to, and I don't find it interesting. And I'm already here from 7 o'clock till 5 o'clock, or earlier and later. I don't want to do that with my time. And then I think from there I started to have the realization of, well, I also don't want to be average at whatever it is I do. And I don't want to do something just for the sake of going through the motions. And I started seeing a few different, posts out there, more things on Forbes or CNN or whatever about, a doctor that did this instead. This person went the business route. This person, maybe went the real estate route. I want to say the first one I thought of was like, maybe it was a Bob Furlick or something like that. It was like a neurosurgeon at Pitt that then went out and started a VC fund. And I was like, why couldn't I do something like that? And that's kind of where the pivot really started for me in my mind. And then fast forward maybe 2 or 3 months later in my intern year, right as we were actually about to get married, I saw a posting for a job at a company called Med School Tutors. And they were looking for like a medical director / business development director to kind of help with, their tutoring organization and growing that and going after schools and things like that. And I was like, this is great. Like it would pay me more than I'm making in residency, not that that's that hard to do. And, there's just so much, that I could, take from that and, do with that. And so I reached out from the job and, it was a part-time job and a way to get started while still being in residency. But that kind of really opened that first door for me and, helped me to start that route.
And was it difficult for your wife to understand your thinking and what you were and what path you wanted to go? Was fully supportive and
very supportive? Oh yeah, and I mean not at all. Her parents, maybe not as much. They're I was like debating if I even was going to say it, but like, yeah, I mean they're just like Indian family, like very traditional, both doctors.
Right.
I remember like when we finally broke the news to them, my father-in-law was nice. My mother-in-law was like, maybe you should divorce him. But has since very much come around. But no, my wife was from day one, like, do something that makes you happy. There's plenty of, ways you can still be successful in this. And it's really worked out, and it's been the best thing for us as a family because her hours as a surgeon are a lot more rigid than mine. And it's very easy for me to, stop what I'm doing to take the kids to a doctor's appointment or, do something like that. And it's worked out really well for us, in hindsight too.
That's terrific. Yeah, that's a terrific support system that you have there. And it's great that you're able to turn those in-laws around to be supportive as well, not chirping in her ear or anything about find something else. So during this process, what did you find to be your biggest challenge, and what did you learn from it?
I think the first thing for me was realizing, and like, pardon for the language, like just like I ain't shit. And I think I realized that really quickly that like the MD was nice and it brought something to the table, but it wasn't the full picture. And I think very quickly I realized like I needed to find a way to humble myself. I needed to realize that lots of people who didn't go to medical school know a lot more than me in any of these individual spaces. And I meet a lot of people, now that'll say, oh, I want to do something similar. I want to do this. I want to do this. And a lot of times I think it feels like somebody's being like, oh, well, because I'm a doctor, I can be a mechanic, and not necessarily getting that there are steps along the way. And some of those steps for you might be going backwards and might be going down the totem pole of just, what my title is, what my experience is, how many people are over top of me, how much money I'm making. And I think I was very fortunate because I was able to start that process on a resident salary, and it wasn't as much of a hit for me. Yeah. Whereas I think if I was, trying to make that justification when I was making, $300,000, that could have been a lot more challenging. But it was a very good lesson to learn early. And it's very much, I think, shaped who I still am.
I had a similar experience. It was back in 2003. So literally 20 years ago, 3 children, all school age, from middle school, into high school, and I had capped out at the organization I was at. I was running the organization, and it was those moments where you go, man, there's nothing that's coming to me today or for the last 5 years that when someone opens their mouth halfway through their sentence, I already know what the problem is and what the solution is, because there's this redundancy of the issues. And so I started reaching out and ended up taking a job, literally out of state, and bought a new house and took probably about almost a 40% pay cut. And it was a terrific decision that took me on a trajectory, because I took a step down both in title and pay. And then it just, you start launching from there, and you by far surpass where you were. But sometimes you have to do that. Sometimes you have to humble yourself. You have to see where the pathway is and the opportunity somewhere else, and go do your time and learn a little bit from the ground up. And
Right.
I've done that as well. I think it's a good lesson. Yeah, I do. So from that moment in time, what has been, what are you most pleased with? What is your greatest period of time since you've left there that you're most pleased with? And what have you learned from that?
Oh man, it's hard to say. I mean, it's hard to say the greatest period. I mean, just because I'm so young. I mean, this was, I guess I would have started, not even 10 years ago, in terms of that, or, maybe right around 10 years ago. So I would really call it all a very great period of time. And like, there's been ups and downs each place, but it's hard to say that any of it, like that I wouldn't look back and view it positively, but like really trying to narrow that in. I would say for me, it's been like 2018 on. I mean, one, like first and foremost, like we moved down here to Jacksonville, we started having our kids. And I think I really was able to take that adaptability and that flexibility and start applying that to work now, where I also had kids, running around at the house. And to be able to increase how much money I make, month after month, year after year, get new opportunities, pursue different routes of income, and find a way that for those to be successful while still being able to, be here with my kids, be there to support my wife. That's been something that I always feel really proud of. And I don't think I've had to take a step back in really anything, either in terms of like me as a husband, me as a, parent, me as a, worker / business owner in some aspects, even health. We started running, half marathons when we got down here to Florida and had never done that before. Right. So that to me is probably my like best period. But again, it feels like everything that I learned on the way really, helped shape me up and, gave me the confidence to go on in certain directions that I have.
I think it's pretty impressive that at that point in time, invested the way you were in both in med school and energy, knowing there was a certain prestige that came with the alpha. I call it the alphabet at the end of your name. The
Right.
acronym or the acronyms. Anybody wants to put behind them. That you, I mean, what incredible fortitude to be able to push through and to do that. I talk to physicians daily, multiple physicians daily, and there is a common theme that I hear from them, and especially those that are longer in their career arc. And it's no different than when I went to law school, and it's no different when I talk to attorneys that are longer in their career arc. And it's kind of sad. But virtually every single one of them is talking about burnout, frustration, needing to find, and the words that they're really searching for through all of this is, I've come to the realization that my work-life balance is out of whack. That I have been wandering around for 20 years in the dark with these blinders on, exclusively focused on being the best I can be in my specialty, building my practice, giving everything to it. And now I'm sitting here maybe with some guilt because I haven't had the time to be present with my family, be the best husband that I could be. And I've realized that I've wasted a lot of years not being diverse in my interest and focusing in other areas of my life. This is a theme that repeats itself over and over and over and over. And so the fact that you were able to discover that and make that pivot is quite impressive. candidly, I probably would have been one of those suckers that when I came to that realization would have been, you know what, I'm just going to have to plod on, and go for it. And I think a lot of people find themselves in that circumstance, pressure from their family, expectations, time commitment, and everything that goes with it. So that you were able to come to that is quite impressive at a relatively young age. Because I think about myself going back in time, and I don't know that I would have been able to do that, and had the self-awareness that I was feeling those things as well. So that's important to be self-aware.
And I think I still just always want to say I got very lucky because I think everything for me just happened at like the right time.
Yeah.
And I was in a position where I probably had a few months of priming of like, oh, here's this website called Dropout Club that posts non-clinical jobs for physicians. Oh shit, these things kind of sound pretty cool. Here's, maybe a bad experience that I had, the past 3 months of residency that got me down. And right. I think for me, it just lucked out that like not only did I want out, but I saw options that were very viable right away.
Right.
And, I lucked out because we were in Denver. Health Grades was headquartered in Denver. They needed a physician that was willing to do, medical record review for their consulting division.
Right.
Boom, right away, I was able to, grab that. And then that turned into me then becoming a consultant for them. So I think I just like very much lucked out in that I had the opportunity for a lot of upward mobility kind of laid out. And I was like, okay, cool, I'm taking it. And we're going to climb,
gobble it up. Yeah, that's good. If you could go back in time and talk to your 20-year-old self, what would you tell yourself? What would you tell yourself?
I would tell myself, I think first and foremost, I would tell myself to start challenging myself more. And like, not to brag on myself, like I had a very easy time with school, be it high school, college, even med school.
Came easy to you.
What's that?
Came easy to you.
Very much. Not showing up for like even classes in med school I didn't go to. I would show up.
I don't like guys like you. They always irritated me.
And the worst part though is like I look at someone like my wife who, always worked hard. And we ended up in the same place out of med school, rank score wise, et cetera. And I think for me, like I came into residency probably the first time with the mindset of just always, what's the easiest way that I can get this done? What's the quickest way? What's the most efficient way? And then someone like her or people that I view as really like the best doctors that I've been around were really ingrained in like, I'm going to work hard. I don't mind that. And there's good and bad to it. Like, I think my approach to things has really led to a lot of opportunities, but I do wish I would have been, maybe a little bit more challenged and, could better cope with, hey, sometimes you just got to do things within the system and you got to do them somebody else's way.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that resonate for me as a former executive about what you're saying in terms of looking for efficiencies and doing things process oriented, whether or not you give the people freedom to have that latitude to kind of think outside the box. And one of the other things that I'm hearing often from physicians is how they feel that healthcare being taken over by hospitals and corporations has really started to change their personal experience and their enjoyment level also in the flexibility that they once had in years past.
And I think the one other thing I would say, I was thinking about it a little bit, is, and it's something I adopted later, was just saying yes to every possible opportunity, sometimes even regardless of experience. And, I joke about it with my wife because she'll hear some calls and, someone will be asking me, oh, do you think you could do this thing? And I'm like, oh yeah, I've done it a bunch before. And she's like, you've never done that thing. And I was like, yeah, but I'll figure it out. I know enough. I'm closely enough into that I can figure it out if I spend 10, 20, hours of work trying.
Yeah. SpaceX calls and absolutely I can get you up to the space station and maybe to Mars.
I mean, even this, she was like, oh, what do you know about being on a podcast? I was like, I don't know. I'm going to figure it out. And we're going to go from there. And I think that attitude, like for me, probably really did kick in when I made that switch. And I was like, I can't say no to opportunities, and a combination of like, well, like, why would I even be saying no? I have so little experience. How do I know what I actually like? How do I know what I might actually be good at? And I think I wish I would have started being that way a long time ago. I think about running, and I resisted running for so long. I was like,
why?
Right, why? Like, I can walk, I can drive. I'm 5'3". My legs are short. They don't move very fast. And we came down here, and I remember talking to a neighbor, and he was like, oh yeah, there's this, thing at Disney. They have a marathon. I was thinking about just like, yeah, let's do it. Signed up for it. And I was like, oh shit, I've never run a marathon. I've never run a 5K. But I think I had a much like more positive attitude by then, and was like, okay, let's do it. Let's try it. Let's figure it out. Let's start running. And that's really become something that like now we really enjoy as a family. We just did like a 15K last weekend, and we have a 10-miler coming up in a month. And I look back at so many opportunities that I'm just like, shit, like, why didn't I say yes to that?
Now, so were you fortunate enough to exit medical school without student debt, or are you the traditional doctor that leaves and off to residency with $250,000 in student debt?
Not that much, but I had debt. I mean, I probably started off around like 190.
So something around there. How hard was it to make the decision with that hanging and looming over your head in terms of deviating and going the different direction? Didn't factor in?
No, but again, because it was coming from residency, so I didn't really like it. Actually, for me at the time was like, I mean, I can be in residency and still do all these things. So I was just like, oh, I'm actually earning more money, and that's money I can put towards student loans and things like that. So that never set in. And then like, I think, again, I was pretty fortunate early to see some pretty high salary figures attached to some of these positions and realize like, okay, this isn't that risky for me. And again, I was lucky. We did not have kids when I made that decision. We didn't have a mortgage at the time. Rent prices weren't as crazy as they are now. I had a spouse who was also working and, earning good amount of money. So I didn't factor in at all.
Excellent. So tell me, who, as you've gone through your journey, is there someone that the listeners may not know that you feel that they should know? An author, a mentor?
Can I give you three? I'll give you three.
You give me three, sure.
I'll give you three. And because like some of these people, I mean, I don't know if anybody's going to go and look them up or anything, but I'd feel bad if I didn't say them. So I think first things first for me would be, two physicians, Michael Marvin and Bill Cheadle. Both of them were surgeons at U of L. I interacted with them a lot. And as I made the transition, both were people that I reached out to. Hey, what do you think about this? And just so overwhelmingly positive. We think you'd be good at anything. Do these things, go, you're young, take the chance. And I think getting that kind of advice from people who were, 20 years older than me, if not more, really like solidified that for me and was like, okay, these are people that I really respect in this field. And knowing that I had their support meant a lot. And even though they couldn't really give me any guidance into the fields itself, I think they were good people to remind me, hey, these were the qualities that we thought highly of when you were a medical student, carry that over. And that was really good for me. And then the other one I would think, and again, people are probably going to know with this one, but I just really liked the Michael Lewis books. And I think Moneyball was the first one that I came across. And again, like it was right around the same time. And it was like, I think right at our honeymoon, and I was reading it and just seeing like, there is a different way to do things. And that if you've ever watched the movie or read the book, I think that's really what you see in it, is that the A's took baseball and said, we've been doing the exact same thing for decades. What happens if you switch it up? What happens if you do something new? And that made me excited. Like, why do I have to go on that exact same track? And there's a lot of other authors that I've, read, a lot of other like Michael Lewis books, even like if you think about The Big Short and you think about Michael Burry, however you say it, ophthalmologist turned hedge fund
Yes.
genius. You see the same thing though, somebody who, one first made that pivot from medicine to, finance to do that, which is, pivot number one. And then in that book and movie, specifically the realization to go against the bigger markets and, say like, hey, the housing bubble is going to burst, was again that fortitude of being able to swim against the tide, if you will.
What are some ways, shifting gears, that you're taking control of, you and your wife are taking control of your financial future? What are your investment strategies and interest in that regard?
Right. And I think the biggest thing I can talk about here is we are two very different people when it comes to that. And we found a way to make it work to where both of us feel happy and feel like we're setting ourselves up for support. So she is much more of a like risk-free kind of investor. Not that there is anything exactly risk-free, but we're talking about the 403Bs.
So she's risk adverse.
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
Risk averse would be the better way to say it.
Yeah. Okay.
And so we tend to put a lot in that because of her feelings there. So we've got your, 403Bs, we've got 529s for the kids. She has a pension plan there. And so we have some of those investments. And then for me, I've really liked targeting more, my brokerage account and following some of that stuff. And again, like I
could see you swing trading, day trading, doing all sorts of stuff.
I do a lot of it. And I think, again, my biggest thing is always just talk about, like, I like to do either what I know or what I trust that somebody else knows. So what I know is biotech. I can go in, I can do that research. I can, try to figure out what's going on. Friends will say, oh, I know you invest in biotech. What do you think about crypto? I don't know shit about crypto. I don't have money sitting in crypto. I've certainly missed out to some extent there, but that's not where my comfort is. And I think I just decided that early due to a combination of like how I feel and also not wanting, my wife or anyone to feel like, oh, you're just gambling, it's just basically going out there at a casino and chasing some fad. So yeah. I would say that I'm a very conscious investor. I really like the Benjamin Graham book, The Intelligent Investor, and I've read that a couple of times. And I tend to target really more just long-term strategies. What do I think that is going to go up in the course of a year, if not, longer. So that's where we have a lot on my end, and haven't done real estate yet. I know that's kind of what you guys do, but none of that. But who knows down the road?
Yeah, excellent. So, if to wrap up, if people wanted to reach out to you or at work where you're at and find out more about anything that you're doing because they find the conversation compelling and you interesting, how could they go about connecting with you?
Yeah. So, I've got the LinkedIn profile. You can find me, Christopher Carrubba, on there. You can also reach out to me via cjcarrubba@gmail.com. So that's cjcarrubba@gmail.com. And then I'm doing a lot of work with the company TrueLearn. We're really trying to renovate and make the best possible medical education resources that we can for students right now. So anybody in that space, please reach out, and we'd love to talk to you guys about that.
Chris, we really appreciate you joining us today. What a fascinating story and journey. I commend you on the decisions that you've made. They're the best ones for you, and it took a lot of emotional fortitude and a lot of emotional maturity to make those decisions. And I'm, what a fortunate man you are to have the support of a great wife and a family to let you pursue your dreams and your interest. And it's just been a fascinating talk, and I really appreciate your time this morning.
Thanks for your time too. This is great.
Thank you.
All right, have a good one.